Thank you, and thank you for both being here today. And I got to say, you asked a good question, and that is, how can you have BIA, BIE, state, whatever, all schools on the reservation? There seems that there's not any coordination in how we do all this, you know.
You know, I living and working in my community, I work with all 4 school systems. Okay?
Yeah.
And then I began to realize the inequity. So these 4 schools sit on the same tribal land, non-taxable land. Yeah, some get impact aid, others don't. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
And so part of my job as a community leader and just a nosy person, I'm going to try to find out why these inequities exist. You know, whenever we began to take a look at really understanding your tribal community, there's so much information, laws that were passed, legislation that were passed that impact us over the years. So you thought you know something, and then something else happened 20 years ago that changed that as well. Yep. But really the challenge to try to create within your own community an understanding. But most importantly, you know, I just wanted to comment on your on the diabetes and all this stuff. I'll be 80 years old in October. I'm not diabetic. I don't have high blood pressure. I have no health care problems because I grew up in old Indian way. You know why I'm not diabetic? I don't eat white flour. White flour is poison. How many of you know that? Let me tell you a story about McGillicuddy. You know who McGillicuddy is? He was the first Indian agent for Pine Ridge in 1889.
Okay.
So what happened is they put us on the reservation. They took away how we lived and how we ate. Yeah. And so they brought us bags and bags of white flour and sugar and lard. But they didn't tell us what to do with it. So as he was riding his horse across the reservation, he saw bags of white flour collecting mold. He got really upset. What the heck? You know, we're trying to feed you. Well, the Indians, the Lakota women said, what is this? What do you do with it? And so pretty soon, some white woman came and told them how to make bread, okay? Anyway, long story short, our bodies were not designed to metabolize flour, white flour. So the foundation of diabetes is white flour and sugar. And so if you really don't want to be diabetic, you don't eat white flour. Anyway, I can go on and on. 1887. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
In 1888, the first Catholic school was built by the Jesuits in 1888. For your information, President Grant gave Pine Ridge to the Episcopal Church. So in 1877, Chief Red Cloud and entourage came to D.C. to meet with President Hayes to get permission to build a Catholic school on the Pine Ridge Reservation. So education is something that I've looked at from 1888 to today, and it's a really interesting history. However, no matter what, and I'm going to do it. I may do something right now that I may not get my permission from my colleagues, but because we're not getting the kind of resources, and thank you for trying really hard to get us resources, we're going to introduce a bill to once and for all, put the kind of money we need to repair and replace our schools. What do you think? We have to. We keep coming to you, and thank you for your generosity, but we're not getting the kind of money we need to once and for all fix our schools. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can introduce new legislation for once and for all, get the kind of money we need to repair and replace our schools. So you're going to help us sponsor that, by the way.
I've always noticed that the Defense Department does a pretty good job of schools on military bases and stuff, and they have a program that they do that, and it was put in by, I think, Norm Dix kind of started it.
Oh, no kidding!
I think that's who it was.
Why didn't he do it for this country?
But they've done a great job, frankly, of rebuilding schools on military bases and stuff like that. And I've thought in the back of my mind, how do they do that? And how could we do so? But then the defense budget is half our budget. Total discretionary budget and stuff. So it would take, obviously, more resources and stuff. But I just want to say thank you for what you do in terms of child welfare and stuff. That's so important. And you said you're an attorney?
Yes.
All right.
I started my career doing ICWA cases for the Oneida Tribe of Wisconsin.
Well, you mentioned when you sat down the number of women that are here, and I look around the room and see all the women and everything. When I first became chairman of this the first time, the chairman usually put some artifacts around the room or whatever, and I told the Shoshone-Bannock tribe, I said, give me some artifacts of your tribe that I could put up here. So they went out and had one of their artists paint this picture up here. And it is of the Bannock and Shoshone women. He says they are so important in our culture and the strength of our culture. And so that they gave me that and said, as long as you're chairman, we'll keep that there. But anyway, I appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Ms. Pingree?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both for the work that you're doing and for your thoughts. And I agree. I mean, we should have some sort of mechanism. It's like I heard someone describe it once as the Marshall Plan for tribes. We should at some point just say we have to round up a lot of capital to just get ourselves back to zero, to equal, to fix the infrastructure, because there's no way we are ever going to catch up with the small amounts of allocation that we get now. And so for some of these things like school buildings or healthcare, hospitals, we really do need some funding mechanism that's just dedicated to that, something, a specific tax stream or something.
Let's think about that.
I agree. And I don't think, it's not an ideological difference or something that people oppose. And if most people hear the stories of how poorly we meet our treaty and tribal obligations, they would be, embarrassed as Americans that we've done so poorly. So I do think it's something we should try to think about, at least to boost it in some way. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. White flour and sugar, that's what makes you sick. So
Thank you.
I'm all in on that one.
Exactly.
And thank you. Really, it's such important work, and it's really impressive to hear the changes that have been made when we take on the challenges that families face differently, and also understand the structural issues that families are dealing with. So it seems like you're doing really good work.
Yeah, absolutely. And the committee has been fantastic in supporting increases in those programs, but also supporting flexibility, because that's been the real key to making these changes, where you would have these very stratified programs. Now we're able to collapse them and ease administrative burden, but also just redesign them in a better way. So I appreciate
that's so
that.
impressive. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I add something to her testimony? Anytime children are removed from their home, they have an emotion called abandonment. So in our schools, we have behavioral health programs to allow our children to go touch those feelings. So anytime a child is removed from their home to over here, they're going to need therapy. Because even as a child, when you're taken from your mother or your father and given to a stranger, you feel like you're being thrown away or rejected. The term is abandonment. I know the term really well because I work at the boarding school I went to, and working with former boarders and talking to them, that was the most important emotion they felt when they drove away and left them at the boarding school. They don't want me anymore. They don't love me. The sense of abandonment is deep. Any child that's in foster care needs therapeutic services. That's all I know. And then so we get to them at our school. So our behavioral health programs looks at all those things on a historical basis as well. So even me, I had to deal with abandonment issues too, going to boarding school. So I know the term really well. And so a lot of our kids, so even though the Indian Child Welfare is doing a great job, I just don't want any more kids put in social services. That's what I pray for. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the work that you guys do. It's very important.
Okay.
And we look forward to working with you as we try to address these issues.
Well, thank you, Ms.
Again, thanks to all the witnesses for being with us to discuss the issues that are important in Indian country. And this subcommittee stands adjourned until tomorrow at 9 a.m., right? Thank you.